Hi, welcome to Unnecessary Roughness, Barstool's college football podcast, our Saturday night live at 10:21 Central, 11:21 Eastern. Most of the day's games are over, and we're here to talk about everything that happened today. But first, Casey's going to tell you about some people that make a good drink.
The good drink of High Noon hard seltzer. Katie and Jack, they know the drill. I don't know if you guys have been drinking them today. My boyfriend had the tequila ones today. We had not had those in the house for a while. I'm obviously usually on the road for the weekend, but I was home and he was like, I want some High Noons, and ended up drizzling because we all know you can get it on Drizzly. He got the tequila ones. He loves the strawberry tequila ones, which it's like an underrated flavor. I feel like a lot of people talk about all the different ones, but the strawberry tequila, it's probably my favorite tequila one. Katie, I know that actually you brought me a pack of the tequila ones when I was still on maternity leave, and I think that one was the favorite, right?
Yeah, I think it was all of them. It was that. I know personally I like the lime the best, though. OG favorite, it's always going to be the peach. I'm so happy that's one of the tall boys. It's peach and then the lime tequila. They're great.
Yeah, fantastic, Jack. I know that the office, whenever we get a new shipment in, everybody grabs them, but everyone knows where to get them, right? Liquor stores, Drizzly, convenience stores, highnoonspirits.com. We all love High Noon.
Yes, shout out High Noon. And we have a big show to get to.
A big show. Very, very big show. So if you are watching this live
Brandon's
right
pretending to be frozen. I knew it.
Yeah, he's pretending to be frozen. If you're watching right now, grab one. Brandon, you are not frozen. You are wearing a nice jersey, though. I assume that's the game we're going to start with?
No. I was going to start with Miami, Georgia Tech. What do you want to start with?
As long as it's not Alabama A&M, I'm good wherever
Arkansas,
you want to start.
I mean, Sam Pittman, yet again, another loss. It's just like, where TCU? I mean, Brandon.
Good Lord. You talk about being right about a team. TCU. UConn beats Rice. I mean, there's so many games out there. So many games. All right.
UNC's just amazing.
All right. Let me lay down in the full prostrate position. Okay, here we go.
Gross.
I didn't say prostate. Whatever. Okay. Here we go. We start in Dallas, Texas, and that is where the Oklahoma Sooners and the Texas Longhorns played in the Red River Shootout. Now, I still call it the shootout because I noticed a lot of announcers today and myself. Folks, let's just be honest with ourselves. It's not that easy to say Red River rivalry multiple times, okay? No. You had very professional announcers today struggling with it. So why don't we just stop being a bunch of pussies and start calling it the Red River Shootout again? That was much easier to say. That's not really the big deal of what happened today. What happened today, breaking an impressive, almost unprecedented streak of Brandon was right this season. Brandon was wrong. And Oklahoma, 34, Texas, 30. I'm going to lay down and absolutely just bend the knee as far as everything I was wrong about. I'm going to go. I have a list of things I was wrong about this game. Casey, I'll just let you open up the floor first because Oklahoma was called the fakest team in the country by certain people. National media guys that just don't know what they're talking about. What did you see out of the Oklahoma Sooners?
Yeah, credit to you, by the way, for calling that out as soon as that was happening. You called out the media as soon as the game was over and said, "Why are people doing this?"
Casey, why can't you wait and see a team play a good team before you decide they're the fakest team in the country? Why don't you sit there? Why don't you let a team prove who they are before you pass judgment on them? That's all. I just want fairness in media.
I will say, like, credit to you for calling those people out. No, I think that, for me going into this game, I kept asking you, and it was truly an honest question. What is it going to take for you to say Oklahoma is a good team? And your answer was for them to play a good team, to play a team with a pulse, which obviously they did today. And what we saw was like Dylan Gabriel is the real deal, that those padded stats that he had against teams that were not real in, a lot of people's eyes, not just yours, don't just say that, you're the only one that said that this offense is really good. And the bigger thing to me, not to take anything away from Oklahoma, but Texas defense didn't look near as good as I thought they were going to look today. I thought Texas was going to win this game. I thought it was going to be close. I thought Oklahoma was going to play them very respectably. Obviously they did, but I think what we saw today is that Oklahoma is the real deal and that this offense is absolutely the real deal and so much better than what we expected to see, and obviously better than what we saw last year.
Okay, let me just go bullet point by bullet point. I was wrong about Dillon Gabriel. I thought Quinn Ewers would outplay him. I thought Quinn Ewers was a better quarterback. They got on the big stage. Quinn Ewers kind of shit down his leg a little bit. Dillon Gabriel never did. Dillon Gabriel, every time Oklahoma needed to play, he did it. Jeff Lebby, the offensive coordinator, turned him loose, and Dillon Gabriel was running through the heart of that Texas defense. Dillon Gabriel had 285 yards passing, a touchdown, and he ran for 113 yards and a touchdown. Dillon Gabriel was the best quarterback on the field today. I didn't think he had that in him. I was incredibly wrong about that. Brent Venables coached like his hair was on fire today. This was the first time I saw him on the sidelines, in my personal opinion, and saw him coaching that team and be like, man, this motherfucker is in control. This guy's coaching the shit out of this team. He was up and down that sideline. He was, I don't know how for 3.5 hours he kept that energy that he had, but it was pulsating through him and through that team. The energy of Brent Venables was coursing through the veins of the Oklahoma Sooners, and the kind of lackadaisical, laissez-faire attitude of Steve Sarkisian was kind of pulsing through the bones of the Texas Longhorns, I thought. It's when Oklahoma went down 3 with a minute left and they got the ball back, they had a choice. They could go down and try to get a field goal and tie the game, win the game in overtime, or they could fucking go balls to the wall and go score a fucking touchdown and win the game. That's how they coached. That's how they quarterbacked. That's how they went and got it done. Jack, I really think, I mean, you can say what you want about the whole game, but boy, that last minute and a half of the way Texas played and the way Oklahoma played was really indicative of the whole day.
I was so disappointed in the pulling off the gas pedal by Texas. It felt like it was their game at the end, and they just kind of were like, oh, we'll just rely. Also, I know Bert Auburn, which is such a great name, by the way.
Such a good name.
Is a great kicker. That was a long kick. They pulled off the pedal where it was still a long kick. Bert Auburn was phenomenal and put it right. It was nails right through the post. But it's just, and it wasn't even like the clock was that far down. Dillon Gabriel had more than enough time.
Yeah, there was a minute 15 seconds left. Listen, in football, you either coach to win or you coach to lose. And Sarkisian coached to lose today. They got the ball. They had all the momentum in the world. They had the ball. They got to about the 35-yard line. They went run, 1 yard pass, run. Like it was bizarre, the play calling sequence. And then they kicked a long field goal. And Sarkisian, he was standing by his kicker, all right, go win the game, kid. You didn't stop the clock with 3 seconds left. You stopped the clock with 1 minute and 12 left. And then again, Oklahoma got the ball. Dillon Gabriel had a choice. And they went right. And the first 5 plays of that drive, Texas sat back and relaxed coverage and gave them underneath, and they just went just knifed through them. It was some of the most cowardly coaching I've ever seen from Steve Sarkisian in the final 2 minutes.
It was one of those situations, and we're going to talk about bad coaching decisions as we move on through this episode, but it was one of those things when you looked at that game and you saw the way everything that you just laid out, and you think, if this is a way he's going to coach in this type of game with a team that most of us thought was the number 1 team in the country going into this weekend. And yes, Quinn Ewers made some awful mistakes. That interception he threw at the beginning of the game was horrendously bad.
Casey, that might have been the worst pass I've ever seen in my life.
It was disgusting.
Yeah.
It was awful. But besides that, albeit one of the worst passes you've ever seen, albeit some horrible decisions, they were still in the driver's seat to win this game. And the question I had at the end of it was if he can't coach to win a game like that, is he ever going to be a guy that can take Texas to that next level? Because if you're a Texas fan right now and you see everything that you had, and it was they weren't number 1 of the AP poll, but a lot of people had them the number 1 team, and you coach like that to finish a rivalry game against a team that should have been beating you throughout the entire game, and you can't make the right decision, is he ever going to be able to make the right decisions?
Yeah, and again, credit to Brent Venables. When they got the ball back, he didn't coach scared. They went and got it. Another one, Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers ended up having decent numbers and is a very good quarterback, but I don't know if he just is nervous to start games, because that first quarter he was just bad, and he put him in a hole. Again, that first pass is 17-0 now, or does
Miami lost?
Georgia Tech just beat Miami.
Oh my God!
this doesn't help my case about UNC.
Well, listen. We decided to do this because we had the Oklahoma game. We decided to go. I said, if anything happens with Miami, let's report it live on the air. Georgia Tech has just scored with 1 second left to beat Miami.
And it was 3rd and 10 at Georgia Tech's 30 for Miami, and they fumbled to give the ball back to Miami or to Georgia Tech. And then Georgia Tech went, what would that be, 74 yards down the field to, oh my God.
Well, let's be honest. Today was a day where you had to step up and prove it. A lot of teams had to step up and prove it. Oklahoma was 5-0. Guys like me, I didn't believe in them. They stepped up and proved it. Louisville stepped up and proved it. And now Miami, they lose a game at home where they're undefeated. People are handing them all these flowers and stuff. USC's in trouble out there on the West Coast right now. Like there's this. We might look back at this weekend and it was a lot bigger than we think because, you know what? I'll hold that to the side because we got a lot more. I just want to talk about Oklahoma, Texas a little bit longer. They're going to play again. I mean, I don't think there's any doubting that. Not only are they both good, and Texas is not going anywhere. I think Texas will have one loss. They'll play them again, and the winner of that game was going to be in real good shape for a playoff spot. But they're going to play again because that conference is fucking garbage, and we'll see. That'll be 6-8 weeks from now, whatever. But right now, Oklahoma is the victor. Oklahoma went out and took it, and Texas. People say same old Texas, same old Texas, same old Texas. Yeah, well, that might have been true there at the end.
That's again, I'm not trying to throw any type of shade that I'm not going to immediately give to my own team when we end up talking about A&M Alabama. But if the biggest takeaway for me, outside of the fact that Oklahoma proved that not only are they a good football team, I think they're a very good football team, and that Dylan Gabriel is very good, but that I don't like Steve Sarkisian. I don't know what it would ever take to be able to have confidence in him as their head coach, saying he's going to make the right decision when he so blatantly made the wrong decisions down the stretch when they had everything in front of them. Because I still do think Texas is that good.
Let me give you a criteria. Let me give you a comparison that I think might be a little apt here. My comparison for this situation right now is Kirby Smart in 2021. And that's when Alabama and Georgia played in the SEC championship game. And Kirby got his titties ripped, and they got beat, and it was same old shit, same old shit, same old shit. Kirby Smart gets here, and can't beat Alabama. And then a couple weeks later, they played for a national title, and they beat them. The timeline isn't the same, and the stakes aren't the same, but this feels like same old Texas now. They will get the opportunity that Kirby got, I believe, at the end of the season to get them back. So what do you do then? Do you fucking let your nuts hang low and actually go out and try to win a football game? Or do you let Brent Venables alpha you? Do you let Dylan Gabriel alpha you? Because that's what happened today.
Yeah, I think the same old Texas, it's the easy joke to make. And it's a fair thing to say today in the beginning of October because they did lose the game the way that they did. But I still don't think that anything that we said about Texas, other than the fact that, we thought they would win, and I did think it was going to be close. I did not think they would lose this game. However, there are still a lot of things that Texas is doing differently this year thus far. Again, they still beat Alabama. They still went on the road to Tuscaloosa and outplayed Alabama and still have a really good offensive and defensive line. That's not going to go away just because they lost the game today. It's going to be a lot harder now to prove that they're still that good of a team because they lost to Oklahoma. But I think Oklahoma's really good. I really, truly do. So we'll see what happens. They are going to play again. Yeah. Part 2 is going to be awesome, but Texas is still a good football team. Obviously not the number 1 team in the country. They're still very good.
One more shout out to Oklahoma. I mean, that defense has come a mile in just a year. They fly to the football. They create havoc. They get interceptions. And that first one was garbage on Quinn Ewer's part, but the other turnovers were not. I mean, they were forced. The defense is much better than it was. That offense is really good. The offense was good last year. But yeah, it's a good, solid, complete team. And 12-0 is very much on the table with the schedule. That's probably the only ranked team they're going to play this year is Texas. I can't think of another one that's on the schedule with the rest of the Big 12 kind of imploding. So yeah, Oklahoma did what they had to do, and they are in position to make a huge playoff push.
So here's my question. Sorry, go ahead, Jack.
This will be a rematch. I don't know how much this game, if you were to pick, if you're Oklahoma and Texas, if you sat them down and said, which game do you want to win? This one or the next one? You probably pick the next one. However, that doesn't take away anything from what Oklahoma did today.
Winning the first one gives you a lot of confidence going in the second one too. Jim.
Yes, 100%. And I don't think it's like, oh, Texas didn't play as hard or didn't game plan fully for this. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that rematch is going to be just phenomenal. And I know we usually don't get rematches like this in college football, especially to get into the college football playoff. And there's still a lot of games to be played. Somebody could but even if they lose to a Big 12 team, a lot of these Big 12 teams already have 1 or 2 losses in the conference.
Yeah. No, I think it's just a clear path to Texas and Oklahoma playing again. One more thing I want to say on this game, and I don't know if I noticed it today, that I haven't noticed it or whatever, but it was the prime time. It was the main ABC game at that point, right? Were the commercials longer for you guys? I felt like every commercial break lasted 5 minutes.
Yeah, it felt that way.
Lasted forever.
Yeah, no, well, the game itself too, it felt like it went for, this game always feels like it goes forever though. And like, I think that because everybody was so tuned into it, the commercials did seem a little bit longer, but that's like the Red River Shootout always feels like it's double the length of the actual game.
All right. This game will come back up when we do our categories later. I will continue to give the Oklahoma Sooners their flowers, so don't worry about that.
May I ask one more question for you?
Sure.
When you look at OU's schedule, and I know that we've talked about the Big 12 and how outside of these two teams, it does seem pretty down. Is there anything that you look on OU's schedule that you say, okay, like this is where they could fall? Like, could it be Kansas? Could it be another team? Or like, do you really see this, like both of these teams are not going to like sleepwalk through it? Because obviously they're not going to be able to kill all these teams. But
I mean, let's look at it realistically. They got a week off next week, and then they have UCF at home. UCF's been a massive disappointment recently. They're going to win that game. At Kansas is probably their best chance at a loss, October 28th. I'm not saying they're going to lose at Kansas on October 28th. I'm saying that's probably their best chance at a loss. That is a team that can score points. Then they got Bedlam, the last Bedlam in Stillwater. Maybe you put a check mark by that and say anything could happen in that rivalry game, especially for the last time. West Virginia at home, BYU on the road, and TCU at home. TCU is garbage juice. So, yeah, I mean, they cleared a massive hurdle today, and not only cleared the hurdle, they proved that they're good. Like to me, I mean, I didn't give them that credit before, but they proved that, hey, not only did we win the game we needed to win, we did it because we're a fucking good team. So,
and I know because you guys have been obviously leading the podcast, Miami could have kneeled and the game would have been over. They decided to run a play with 33 seconds left with their running back. The running back fumbled, and then they went and allowed Georgia Tech to score. So this may go down as one of the worst losses, I think, in college football history. But
that is not a great look for Cristobal or Miami. That is not good. We'll get to that game in a little bit, but that's bad, quite bad. In fact, do you know what is in fact quite good? Bless you, Casey. She's okay. Okay, she'll be back. She'll be back. But I'm going to tell you about the good folks at Cars.com. Cars.com, the leading digital marketplace where you can buy, sell cars, you can finance cars, everything you can do to procure a car, everything you can do with the car game, you can do it at Cars.com. They have so many possibilities. The car that you drive says so much about who you are and who you want to be. So figure out who you want to be by going to Cars.com. They have every possibility for you out there. They're uploading up to 50,000 cars daily. They got over 2 million cars at all times. That means 2 million possibilities for whoever you want to be. So find your next possibility on Cars.com. Cars.com, where to next? For us, where to next, as we have lost Casey Smith. I guess I'll postpone the A&M Bama talk. And then we got to talk. There have been some teams, I think exposed is probably a bad word, but there's been some hearts broken tonight. There's been some some dreams shattered. And the first one I can think of, other than the fact that USC is out there possibly dealing with it right now, and Miami just had it happen to them, is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Notre Dame 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, Notre Dame had the big game against Ohio State. They lost on the last play of the game. It was emotional. Last week they beat Duke. And then this week they're going on the road to a Louisville team who also hadn't proven anything yet. They were 5-0, had a lot of questions. Is it a real 5-0? Is it a fake 5-0? Well, it looked pretty goddamn real tonight because they beat the shit out of Notre Dame 33-13. Jack, does it say more about Louisville and the fact that we're about to take them a lot more seriously? Or does it say more about Notre Dame and the fact that Marcus Freeman doesn't really have a grip on this thing yet?
Well, Louisville has really put themselves firmly in that next level, or pretty much in the top level of the ACC after this win. I know it's not an ACC win, but the rest of their schedule doesn't look that hard. And I wouldn't say they're better than UNC, but they're right there. And who knows? We could see them at 12-0 in the ACC championship game against 12-0 Florida State, specifically with Miami losing. But Notre Dame, I think I saw your tweet and it's about Sam Hartman. We anointed him too quickly, but I think what will happen when we look back on this Notre Dame season, it will be an ultimate what if they had a good offensive coordinator. And that was the clip that I had back in May that Notre Dame fans really came at me for, because I said he was an offensive line coach, but he was a tight ends coach. Turns out doesn't fucking matter because he doesn't know how to coach either of them. And they have this quarterback that was scoring 38, 45 points a game with Wake Forest, and he can't put up more than 20 with Notre Dame. And they should theoretically have 3 losses at this point because they kind of got lucky against Duke.
Well, I mean, you can't score against Ohio State at home. Okay, whatever. Maybe Ohio State's defense is really good. You go on the road with Duke, you can't score. Now at Louisville, you can't score. And Estime has shown he's a good running back. Sam Hartman has shown in his 28-year career that he's a good quarterback. At some point, there's there's kind of a cinch in the hose, right? There's something that's stopping everything. And their offensive coordinator, their offensive philosophy, their game plan, what they set forth is uninspired to say the least. Like they were mentioning tonight, they got to get the tight end involved. The announcers saw it. I saw it. 88, they get him involved, and they got him involved like in the fourth quarter. Like they don't have a clear plan of what they're trying to do. Meanwhile, Louisville, you talk about a team that has changed everything. Like Braum comes in 1 year, brings the quarterback in, brings every transfer in America. Thrash is one of the best receivers in the country. They come in, and not only did they win that game, I have 2 observations from this game that don't really have much to do with football. Every week we get one game and one scene. They're like, this is why college football is the best. This is why college football is better. That crowd at Louisville, standing the whole time, loud, just absolutely going nuts the entire second half. That crowd's a very college football crowd. It was a beautiful college football scene. And my second good thing from this game, and then Casey, I'll shut up because I've been talking for a while. Joe Tessitore is phenomenal in big games.
Oh, Joe Tessitore he's always phenomenal.
He's phenomenal in big games. In the fourth quarter, when it was a 1-score game, I wrote it down. He said, college football, can you feel it in your chest? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I can, Joe Tessitore. Yeah, I can feel it in my chest. I was ready to fucking fight. Joe Tessitore is fucking good.
Yeah, he's very good. By the way, my cough is still happening. I may die in the middle of this. I cannot get over it. So thank you for carrying that. Louisville, I know that I picked Notre Dame to win. I think a lot of people did. Louisville going into this game, it was like, okay, they're for real, right? They've won 5 games in a row, but how real are they? They've squeaked out some wins against some not very good teams. They're going to run up against a Notre Dame team. And like Jack said, too, now we look back at that Ohio State game and you're like, okay, yeah, we can talk about the fact that Ohio State didn't have, or that Notre Dame didn't have 11 guys on defense for 2 plays at the end of it, but they still won. They still beat Notre Dame. But now you're like, okay, how real was this Notre Dame team? Louisville just proved us all wrong and said, not only were we 5-0 real, not only are we so much better with Jeff Braum, we're the real deal. So that was my first takeaway, was not Notre Dame wise. It was Louisville is real. We'll see what happens for the rest of that conference. But I was so convinced that Sam Hartman was going to be the answer for Notre Dame. Now, I know that they lost to Ohio State, and I get that, but I was convinced, like, hey, weird things happened in that game. This is the quarterback they needed to really take that next step and really, push that national narrative. Like, we were just a quarterback away. And I'm not saying it's his fault by any stretch, but that kind of feels like that's just not the case anymore. That it's like, okay, there's more going on. Like you mentioned, the play calling was awful. There's so much more that Notre Dame needed to do. And I don't know if it's Marcus Freeman's fault completely either, but there's a lot of question marks. And if you're a Notre Dame fan right now, you're like, shit, we got our guy in at quarterback and he's not been perfect, but there's a lot bigger problems going on. And I don't know how you fix that now.
Marcus Freeman can't be feeling good.
I mean, Notre Dame fans it's the end of the world as far as the season goes. The season, as far as your big dreams, is over. That you lose to Ohio State and it hurt, but you still had a chance. You still just win the rest of your games. Now it's over, and you just have to play the next 6 games and hope you build something for the future. Like it's a depressing time when you know that your season is over. I had to face that like 6 weeks ago.
If you're a Notre Dame fan, Jack, I mean, to your point, like if you're Marcus Freeman, you're not feeling good. Like if you're a Notre Dame fan, how are you feeling about Marcus Freeman? Because, when he officially took over, they did struggle a little bit. Obviously the loss to Marshall, that was easy to make fun of, but it was like, no, like give him some time. He's going to figure it out. Like where would you stand on him right now?
I mean, I wouldn't be close to thinking, oh, we may need to go get another coach, but I do think, hey, next week against USC, you better have those guys show up. And then on top of that, if he goes 8-4, 7-5, it's a real disappointment. And it's next year's a big, big year. And you said it perfectly, Casey. You had the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was the one thing you said you were missing.
Right.
You went and got it and didn't fix anything.
And they also were lackadaisical out there. I know it's on the road. It's a tough environment. Louisville has a great environment. They always have. There was some times when there's kind of a dip off, but that's like any program. And Louisville has amazing crowds just in general with basketball too. I think they're like, if the SEC ever expands, they should go and get Louisville. But they just came out so flat. And that's unacceptable. If you want to be Notre Dame and you want to brag about your schedule, you want to do this, you want to do that, you better fucking show up. And they didn't. And that's unacceptable. And that, I think, reflects a little bit more on coaching than the players, because you got to get your guys motivated.
All right, Casey, it's time.
I know.
It's sorry. It's time.
No, it's okay.
Alabama, 26. A&M 20. I think Alabama won the SEC West today. I think that's what happened. With what they have left on their schedule, Auburn, Arkansas, LSU at home. I think they won the SEC West today when they went out and beat you guys. We talked about Sarkisian and how in the last couple of minutes he coached a little scared. Jimbo Fisher coached scared the entire game. Third quarter, it's 4th and 1, and you're trying to beat Alabama fucking Bama at home, and you punt it and you show fear, and they immediately go down and score. And then he blows a timeout to kick a field goal at the end. I know it's a broken record, and I know you don't want to talk about it, but I think A&M had the talent to win that game. I don't think A&M had the coaching to win that game, Casey.
No, I mean, what is there to even say? Like I was texting Katie like after the game that I was so genuinely mad. It wasn't even like I'm mad and I'm going to be pissed on the podcast and I'm going to say some things. Like I'm genuinely like, it's not even like the angry, like I'm going to scream at you. It's the disappointed that anybody could have gotten up for this game. And it's not just Aggie fans. I mean, obviously, and not to like throw you under the bus, but I'm going to throw you under with me and throw everybody on the Barstool College Football Show, because it's like when A&M does well enough and does some things right to get not just Aggie fans on board with them beating teams like Alabama, the rest of the country to be able to do it, they always fall flat with Jimbo Fisher. That's just what's happening. And we can go down the list of all the coaching decisions that he made, but I tweeted this after the game, and it's this man gets paid almost $10 million a year to mismanage a game that they had in their fingertips. Now, to Alabama's credit, Jalen Milroe had one of the best games he's ever played today. I mean, he had like a record-setting game for himself. The pass defense for A&M was atrocious.
It's time to have a Milroe conversation because I think a lot of people have already passed their judgment on him and decided what he is going to be. The truth is, the last couple of big games they had, not last week because they killed us, last couple of big games against Ole Miss and then against A&M today, in the second half, he was fantastic in both games. He threw a pick in the second half today, and then Alabama got a pick right back. And as soon as he got the ball back, he was perfect from then on out. He's been lights out in the second half of these big wins.
They were just picking on A&M secondary for good reason, and he did. He looked phenomenal. At one point, I mean, Alabama had negative 13 rushing yards, and we knew going into this game that A&M's rush defense was the strength of that defense and like the old school wrecking crew and everything. And you saw those flashes of that moment because A&M's defense played really well, but the secondary just got absolutely gashed. But again, Jimbo Fisher made some awful decisions. And then not only did he make these awful decisions, he sits up on that fucking podium at the end of the game and doubles down and acts like he is an absolute moron. And they say, well, why did you not go? Why did you punt on 4th and 1? And this man has the balls to say, well, if it was 4th and inches, we would have gone for it. 6 inches, Jimbo, like what? Like I just don't understand. And I can't make this up. I was going back and forth with an Aggie on Twitter, and it's not some like random Aggie that has like 30 followers that's like screaming at air. This is like an Aggie with like not a legitimate following, but a good amount of following, still saying, guys, like it's Alabama. You know, like if I told you before the season that we would still be in it with Alabama, you know, down with a backup quarterback, it's like, no, stop. Jimbo lost this game. And it wasn't just one bad decision. Jimbo lost this game, and he makes an ungodly amount of money to embarrass himself on national TV week in and week out. And Jalen Milroe looked really good. This is the most vulnerable Alabama team we've seen in a long time. And they didn't look vulnerable today most of the time because Jimbo Fisher kept them in that game when he had no business doing it.
Yeah, it was a weird game. It was a weird game because I feel like A&M could have won it, and I also feel like Alabama could have won it by 2 touchdowns. Like it was weird because there were moments, like especially in the first 2.5 quarters, A&M could have stepped on the gas and built a little lead, and they didn't. And then in the fourth quarter, it's a damn shame a ref called that blindside block on that kick that field goal block return. You ever seen a field goal block like that where the guy breaks through the line and just catches the damn thing? We needed that highlight for the rest of our lives, and a ref took it away from us, or Dallas Turner took it away from us.
And that also just even proves further of my point that like you can't give us nice things. Because when that happened, I mean, my head was in my hands. It was like, all right, it's over. This is going to be embarrassing. And then they took it away, and they said penalty. I'm like, oh my God, A&M is going to be able to have life. And they did it through the rest of the game. Then the safety happens. This was such a hello, everybody. A&M can't have anything nice game. And I don't know what you do with Jimbo Fisher. And I know we've talked about his contract.
I do.
Well, buy him out, but that's not going to happen.
If you got the money to pay him, you got the money to buy him out. It's a new
I
world in
know.
college football.
I know. And we have that money. And I mean, anybody who's like, oh, the massive buyout. I was telling somebody this today. When A&M built Kyle Field, they had 12 founder suites that were $25 million a piece, and they sold out in less than a day. The money is not the problem, but it's like how, like if A&M puts together a good season, and I'm losing my voice as this is happening, I'm gonna have another coughing attack. I'm this fucking mad. Like where do we draw the line? Because A&M is perpetually 8-4, right? Last year they didn't even make a bowl game. So where do we draw the line at fire Jimbo Fisher? Because it's not like, and this is what, unfortunately, this is where I've gotten to. It's not like A&M's used to winning 10 games a year. So if he does put together a nice stretch down the end of the season, and it's like, okay, well, he lost to Miami. Now, obviously that loss doesn't look that great now because they just lost to Georgia Tech. But they lost to Miami, lost to Alabama. Maybe they drop one more and they go 9-3. Do you fire the guy for that? I hope so, but I don't think they will.
Katie, you texted me after the game, ha, fuck A&M. What did you mean by that?
You're so funny. Please. I will say, I saw a quote that I think A&M does have the money. I forget who said it. It was from like a one.
Everybody has the money to buy out their coach.
No, I know, but like they specifically like have it reserved. It was like if we have to, we have the funds. Like
I'm just gonna say, What if Deion Sanders is Casey's coach next year?
You think I'm annoying
I'm
now?
canceling the podcast if that happens.
I'm
It's
not-
over.
I'm
Like,
annoying
I'm not
now?
doing it.
I'm not even going to be the college football guy anymore. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna,
no, like if that happens, I will not. I'm sorry, Casey. I love you and everything. I'm canceling. It's over. I'm leaving. Hands
tomorrow,
up.
Liberty Aces. We're a WNBA podcast. Me and you.
Yep.
Katie, will you be here with me?
No, she's going to the WNBA podcast.
No, Katie's sticking with me.
I'll edit it. I'll do the clipping.
Again, like people give me shit all the time about like A&M, which, you know, and I'm sure that there are people in this chat right now. I keep forgetting that we're live being like, oh, she loves Colorado, this and that. A&M is my team. If Deion is the coach of my team, I will be the most unbearable person on the planet.
The offensive line today was shocking.
All right.
I mean, and here's the issue, Brandon, and you already said it, you know, like obviously Alabama probably won the SEC West. You know, the SEC West is still, and we'll talk about LSU as well, because LSU pulled off a win and pulled off a cover today. But Alabama, if Jalen Milroe continues to play the way that he did today, and that team continues to get good, all the Saban is dead narratives are also dead. I mean, they have put together obviously an impressive win on the road at Kyle Field today, and I still do think it's more indicative of what A&M did today. But Alabama, I mean, until Saban's gone, they're always Goliath, always.
Jack, think about this: the cult of A&M, the cult of Deion.
Folks.
I mean, just think. But you know what's a funnier job for Deion than A&M? Florida. If he got Florida and was Florida State's rival, that would be funnier. But I just want
credit to Jalen Milroe. I want to say that again. I was very down on him, obviously, going into this game, but he looked very, very good today.
Shady Rays. Do you want some good sunglasses? Of course you do. Do you want to pay a reasonable price for them? Of course you do. Shady Rays are made like the big, expensive guys, the incredible glasses, but they don't have that price tag. They're awesome. Gear up for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. They're an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair you've ever worn. Durable frames and crystal clear optics for all outdoor adventures. Casey, we were out in the sun last week. You had Shady Rays. I had Shady Rays. I can't imagine going to a game without them.
No, I've said this every time we talk about Shady Rays, that the best thing about them is that they look like they're high-end designer type sunglasses that would break the bank, that would cost a lot of money, but they're not. They're affordable and they look great. They're made very well, and they have all, you know, if you don't like them, you can return them within a certain amount of time. And we all know sometimes sunglasses look great on somebody else, and then you try them on and they don't look good on you. Shady Rays can figure that out. But again, they look phenomenal. But if you happen to lose them, a lot of people lose sunglasses. I do all the time. Leave them sitting on a table, leave them at the bar, crush them in your purse, whatever. Shady Rays will help you out. And right now, Brandon, we're giving 50% off of 2+ pairs with polarized sunglasses too.
You go to shadyrays.com, use code Roughness for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Again, shadyrays.com, code Roughness, 50% off 2 or more pairs. All right. I wrote down some goods. I wrote down some bads, and then we will. I'll fire them off, and you guys react accordingly, and we'll march forward. First of all, I do want to say no. I'll save this. So, the good. I thought today you saw some individual star power step up and turn in some incredible games. Like you saw the actual stars of college football. Not all of them. Not all of them. Certainly Sam Hartman, who we thought was up here, kind of Caleb Williams might be struggling right now out in the desert. But Marvin Harrison Jr. for Ohio State in a game that they were very close. You know, Maryland, credit to Maryland. They were 5-0, and they needed to prove something. They lost, but I still think they proved they're a decent team. They go to Ohio State. They're up in the first half. They end up losing 37-17. Marvin Harrison Jr., 8 catches, 163 yards, 1 touchdown. I don't know how much because that was going on at the same time as the Red River Shootout. But there was a time in the second half where Ohio State was starting to get control, and it's basically, I believe Ryan Day said, hey, stupid quarterback, throw it to Marvin Harrison as much as you possibly can. and they pulled away once that happened. He's very good.
Yeah, he's very good, and the Ohio State, and I'm excited as we all are to see how the Big Ten East plays out between Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, because Ohio State has this knack of like not looking very good for some of these games and then end up winning by like 20 points. And it's just like, okay, what are they going to look like when they go up against Michigan and Penn State? And we'll see. But I mean, Ohio State did what they needed to do, and Talia. Or Talia, how do you say his first name? Because it's always different on every broadcast. How do you say it?
I say Talia.
Talia, Tagovailoa. Yes. He made some decisions that we've seen him make in big games in the past. A couple turnovers, but he kept him in that game. Ohio State did what they needed to do. So I can't talk shit about Ohio State, but they have this weird thing where they let these teams hang around, but then you look down at the score and you're like, oh, it was 3 touchdowns. So how good really are they? Kyle McCord did not look great, but he ended up looking good when he needed to. And obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. did too.
Well, I think Maryland's pretty good. I think we all the time when a so-called good team or great team struggles, we always want to point at them and say, how good are they really? When in fairness, we should look on the other sideline and say, Maryland, took it to them for a little bit. They couldn't stay with them for 4 quarters, but whatever.
Ohio State's defense is the real deal, I think.
Now, I don't have the full because list ready yet, and that is guys that won't win the Heisman, but they could be in the Heisman race, but they won't be because they don't play at a big school. They don't play at an important school. I got 2 guys that have asterisks on the because list that could win the Heisman or playing well enough to win the Heisman, but won't for reasons that aren't their fault. Number 1 is quarterback at LSU, Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels. And I have this fucking idiot in chat right now, and he's just following me around on Twitter all day saying, you said he was a bad quarterback. I never said he was a bad quarterback. I said he was inconsistent last year. This year, he hasn't been inconsistent. He's been incredible. Today at Missouri, they win 49-39. He had 259 yards, 3 touchdowns in the air, 130 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He was hurt. He carried that team on his back. He saved LSU's season, what's left of it. Jaden Daniels has been incredible this season, and he won't win it because it's turned into a team award where as soon as you lose 1 or 2 games, you're out. He won't win it, but he's playing as well as whoever is going to win it right now. That's what Jaden Daniels is doing. And the other guy who won't win it but could, Brock Bowers, is probably the very best football player in the country. He threw another 7 and 132 and a touchdown at him tonight. He's just 7, 8, 9, and 150 yards every single week for the last 3 weeks. He is incredible. Georgia looked good, and Brock Bowers won't win the Heisman. Jaden Daniels won't win the Heisman, but both are good enough to do it.
Well, and the Jaden Daniels stuff too, which is what was frustrating a lot of LSU fans last year, was, and going into this game, I said this, I was like, I just can't count LSU out, even though they looked bad last week, that they have these up and down games. He's had that where he's looked really, really good. And then he's had these down games and you're like, it's not necessarily Jekyll and Hyde, but his ceiling has looked so good. How can he put this together consistently? And he's raised that level of consistency because he looks very, very good. And then Brock Bowers, as you've said, if the Heisman Trophy wasn't a quarterback-based award, which is what it usually is, he would probably win it, right? I mean,
if it were given to the flat-out best player in the country, if we had given it to Ndamukong Suh back in 2009, if we had given it to certain guys through the years, if it were the best player in the country, I think Brock Bowers would be leading the charge right now. We don't. We give it to the best quarterback on the best team who's in the best spot at the end of the year. But anyway, that doesn't matter why we give it. But Brock Bowers is phenomenal. Now, Georgia, last week I docked them a little bit, and there are some teams that have obviously Notre Dame died tonight. A couple other teams might have died tonight. Georgia looked every bit the part of a number 1 team tonight. Now, Kentucky, it was the annual "Is Kentucky real?" game. Oh, actually, they're not. That happens every single year. But Georgia looked incredible, and I don't know, Jack, how closely you watched it. Carson Beck looked really fucking good, really fucking good.
Yeah, that was just a dominant performance by Georgia, one that we were waiting for.
Yeah,
and it was from the get-go. They went out there, scored right away. Carson threw a really nice pass to make it 7-0, and then it was just over. Devin Leary missed some passes, but I don't even think if he completed those, it would have mattered. Georgia just looked very, very good, and they reminded us that, hey, we're here,
Yeah.
and we're going to have some big games coming up, but don't doubt us going into those because we are just as good as you thought we were. Because this was their toughest opponent up to this date, and they beat them, 51-13?
They
beat
killed them.
the hell out of them, and like you said, beat them from the start. Like Kentucky was never in it. And I have watched Carson Beck play tonight. He just had some zip on his ball. Like his ball looked incredible. Like he looked like a pro quarterback out there for the first time. Tonight was the first time I watched him, and I was like, okay, I get it. Like I see what Kirby saw. He looked really fucking good. And you can say Kentucky's not real, and they never are, but they always have a pretty good defense. Like Stoops always has a good defense, and they just eviscerate them. Let's see.
And as we've said a million times, Georgia's schedule lays out to where, it's an easy schedule for, it's one of the easiest in the country. So if they continue to play this way, it's like, the SEC, I know, Brandon, like we've talked about the SEC and where they are as a conference, but I think as of right now that, we all kind of walked back our Alabama take after they lost to Texas, but that game in Atlanta, it looks like it's going to be Alabama. Georgia is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's got a lot of football left, but I mean, Georgia is the best team in the SEC, and I think Alabama is the best team in the West. I mentioned those three individual performances. Marvin Harrison Jr., 8 for 163. Brock Bowers, 7 for 132. Jaden Daniels was incredible. I got to throw this one out there, too. Fucking Drake May. Do y'all see Drake May? Drake May, 442 yards in the air, 33 touchdowns, 55 yards on the ground, a touchdown. Syracuse, are they good? No, but they eviscerate them. Like, they are clearly the second best team in the ACC through 6 games. And they might be on par with Florida State. I don't know if they are, but they're really good. North Carolina's really good, Katie, and you can't deny it.
They're really good. Are we there? Are we there yet, Katie?
You gotta be there.
I'm like, okay, that was a dominating win. We're gonna go to the ACC championship. Also, Drake May with the 400 yards, he's now tied with the school record for the amount of games with it. It's only 3. It goes to show UNC, but this I wish Syracuse was better because I feel like this would have been his like reemergence into the Heisman campaign. Like I feel like people aren't gonna take it.
No, I think he's in it. Okay. He's in it.
He has to be.
Yeah, he's very much in it. I don't think it's really taken shape yet, right? I think it'll take shape down the stretch, but he's very much going to be in it when they play your bigger teams there in the ACC. I think it looks like we're going to halftime and USC's down 17-14. They're going to win by 3 touchdowns, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and everybody that like is not like a true college football fan or not a fan of these teams is going to like either go to sleep or go out and not be paying attention. And they're going to wake up tomorrow and they'll be like, oh shit, we thought USC was going to lose. But Katie, before we move off of North Carolina, and like, I know we like to give you shit and like we say like, oh, when are you going to believe in this team? Like, I'm truly interested to know, like, as a fan of this team now, like, are you sitting back and are you letting yourself think, okay, this is like a real ACC run? Like we could win the conference or how are you feeling?
I think Florida State's really big. That's my bar right now. I think I've seen them falter enough to like think pin in that. But this, I think, was 27-24-0 going into halftime. Like that was a dominating win. Do I think Syracuse is really good? No. But I think the way we handled them was what a good team does. Like Michigan, Minnesota. Like that was a dominating win. This was like, okay, we have the pieces. Also, I think it's a look ahead game. So like my focus is entirely on Miami, even walking into this week. And if I'm assuming the team is 2, so to play like that going into this game makes it even more impressive in my eyes.
Katie, I'm jealous of you. I'll be honest. I'm very, very jealous. I wish I was you.
Oh no.
So in the ACC, let's have this conversation. Miami just fell by the wayside tonight. North Carolina thank you, Katie. North Carolina has looked very good so far. Clemson is kind of gross. Florida State got a lot of credit for beating LSU at the beginning and then a lot of credit for winning on the road at Clemson. Clemson barely beats Wake Forest at home today. Do we age Florida State's resume poorly or do we just let it ride and see where it goes?
I think we let it ride and see where it goes.
Beating LSU, they have one of the worst defenses in America. And obviously the Clemson win is, again, they look like shit today. I don't want to dock Florida State at all, but I kind of, if we're being fair, kind of got to dock Florida State a little bit, right? No, nothing.
Right now, yes. And the win against BC, like I know it was the red bandana game and they only won by 2. Like obviously you can point to that and say that they faltered. But when you look around the rest of the country though, and like Texas today, like Texas obviously loses. And then, Georgia obviously is still a juggernaut. But I mean, Michigan, we've got to talk about Michigan. I mean, their starters aren't even playing in the fourth quarters anymore. Like that's how good.
We're going to talk. Michigan's coming up.
But I'm saying like when you look around the country though, like you still have to give Florida State some credit because like other teams are also kind of showing a little bit of vulnerability. But yeah, I mean, is the ACC, like, I think we were so excited to say, oh my God, the ACC is not just Clemson and then, the rest of the conference where it's like, well, is it Florida State in the rest of the conference or is the rest of the conference just kind of average and we just really hyped them up? I don't know, but I'm still giving Florida State credit for sure.
Yeah, I am too, but it's a conversation that could be had. All right, moving on with the good. Michigan has played the most cowardly schedule in the country, but they are just absolutely thrashing teams.
They're so good, Brandon.
They probably are. They probably are. They look really – I mean, they're destroying these teams. They're treating these bad teams like a good team treats them. I wish we didn't have to wait till week 9 or week 11 for them to play a decent team, but the teams they are playing, they're just absolutely I mean, there have been other teams playing bad teams, like Florida State playing Boston College, like all over the country. There have been other teams that let bad teams hang around. Michigan doesn't let them hang around. They just choke them out.
Jack, what do you think about Michigan? I know that you and I are usually on the same side as Michigan, but you took Penn State to win the conference.
What did Will Patton do?
He said Will Patton said that if the people want to hear from me, don't listen to this podcast, but if you really want to hear from me that badly, go to a QAnon rally, and that's where you can hear from me. So I banned him for that.
Good.
I was
Okay,
in
good.
a banning mood. So
Hey,
Will Patton.
Hey, Jack, block them all.
Oh, so you're in the chat. I was like, what is going on? The three of you guys can multitask. I cannot. So
No. I saw
guy.
Will Patton said something, and I'm fine with any jokes, but I just was like, Will Patton banned. But Michigan, 52-10. They did what they had to do. They took care of business. The defense is scary. Yeah, they haven't played anybody.
You're right. That's a good way to describe it. Their defense is scary.
There's also like, and I know that, whether you like Jim Harbaugh or not, and like you think he's cheesy or corny or whatever, like he seems like he's having fun. And I know that doesn't necessarily always matter. I do get that. But like the team picture thing at the beginning of the game, like that, it's just like there's something about this team right now that's just like deep down, they know their schedule is not that hard. They get that. Like thus far, it's not been that hard. But like he actually looks like he's like, I mean, I didn't even coach the first 3 games, guys. Like, I don't, there's just something about this Michigan team. And the fact, like, when you look at it, I mean, I would honestly curious how many snaps their starters have taken in the fourth quarter this season. And I don't think it's very many.
How many snaps have they played against a decent team? 0. I can answer that.
Yeah, but you said the same thing about Oklahoma going into this week.
I did. Yeah, no. I did. And Oklahoma proved themselves. Michigan will have to prove themselves till the leaves are all off the trees. We'll be fucking singing Christmas songs when Michigan has to prove themselves. Also,
I think that if your starters are not playing in the fourth
quarter. Stop right
quarter,
there, Casey. What is in your hand? Okay, that was all right.
What did you think it was?
I had no idea what it was. It's just a pen. Okay.
It was one of those like things like I got like one of those gift baskets in the mail from like a no free ads, and this was on top of it, and it's immediately the favorite thing, and it's not even anything to do with the company that sent me stuff. I can't stop playing with it.
Okay. Kansas is 5-1. They beat UCF today. Maybe that's not that big nationally, but I just think it's really cool that we live in a world where Kansas just quietly goes 5-1. Shout out to Leipold and the boys. I got a player, and it's a little off the beaten path, and I'm going to ask y'all if y'all know who he is. You don't. None of you do. I didn't know who he was. Does anybody know who Ontario Brown is? Maybe it's in Ontario. I don't know. Ontario Brown. Does anybody know who Ontario Brown is?
I'm not getting
a MAC team, right?
He is.
Katie.
Today, Ontario Brown, and I guess I rarely just pull out a MAC player. Ontario Brown plays for Northern Illinois, and they beat Akron today. He had 280 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground, rushing. 13 carries, 280, 4 touchdowns. He had touchdowns of 66, 58, 46, and 50. The most incredible individual game today happened at Northern Illinois and Akron. Shout out Ontario Brown. I don't know if all the other podcasts are going to shout out Ontario Brown, but I know on this podcast we're shouting out Ontario Brown. What? Katie, what'd you just do?
I should have done with open hands.
Oh, you did.
I know. Open hands.
Yeah, make sure your hands are open there, Katie.
I know.
You know, well, again, we are in front of a live audience, and I can only imagine they love Katie so much in the chat.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what they just did when she.
Okay.
Gremlin says, I don't give a fuck about Ontario Brown. Okay, racist. All right.
Brandon.
What? It's midnight. Anyway, where else? Now the bad. Y'all ready for the bad?
I'm ready for the bad.
Jack, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. Did you see Mizzou fans turn on me when we put out the clip of me saying I'm going to get off the bus for a second and go in and get cigarettes? Oh, Missouri fans were all up in me. They were just giving, oh, you fucking coward, you traitor, you don't get back on, don't get back on. Listen, Missouri, what happened to you today hurt. Oh, God, it hurt. I have been there. You spend the first 5 weeks building up the credit and building up to this huge moment, and you got a full crowd, and everything's going crazy, and you're finally going to make that next step. You're finally going to fucking do it. And then you don't. And LSU, a team that doesn't need it, just comes in, beats you, and they leave, and you're just sitting there. You're 5-1. All your hopes and dreams crash down. But I'm getting back on the bus, Missouri. Don't worry. I'm getting back on the bus. I knew we were about to get pulled over, and I got a couple of outstanding, so I had to get out of the way. But I'm back. You're going to be fine. You're going to win some games in the SEC East. The East isn't good. Relax, Missouri. But I know what happened. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts bad. It's going to be okay, Missouri. I just want to talk to my people. That's all.
How back are you?
Oh, I'm very back. I'm very back. They're going to win 8 games. But boy, they were up. What were they up? 22-7, 25-7 today, and cruising. And people like me were tweeting, Brian Kelly's destroyed LSU, and this defense is that, and this defense is that. And then Jaden Daniels just picks them up and carries them across the finish line, and then Missouri gets their heart broke. I wrote before we were starting the show. I wrote Miami is kind of gross ? Check final score. So that has aged pretty well because Miami. That was gross. You put yourself in position. You go 4-0, 5-0. People are wondering, hey, are they real? Are they real? Georgia Tech lost to Bowling Green. Was it Bowling Green?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Bowling Green.
Georgia
Tech lost to Bowling Green.
We were talking about Georgia Tech being god-awful a few weeks ago.
You know why? Because Georgia Tech is god-awful. And Miami lost to them at home. That's disgusting.
Well, and again, I mean, I didn't see the way that they finished that game. But Mario Cristobal, you want to talk about coaching decisions. We talk about Sark and Jimbo and how they had meltdowns. I mean, Mario Cristobal has to be very high up there. If they could have kneeled, and I mean, that guy is going to get some fucking heat for that.
If Miami had fans, they'd be all up his ass right now. You know who's awful? You know who's awful? Besides Mississippi State?
Who?
No, Texas is fine. TCU is awful.
They're so bad.
They're awful. Baylor 2 years ago won the conference. They're awful.
What do you think happened
to Baylor? What happened to Dave Aranda?
We had Dave Aranda, and I mean, granted, they won the conference, and that's fine. But like Dave Aranda was like, what a hire! You go out and you get a coordinator that deserves a head coaching job, and he's going to turn this program back around again. What do you do with Dave Aranda? I mean, they are awful. Do you give him another year? I mean,
yes, you do. What are you going to do? Not give him another year? He won the fucking conference 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, I guess Baylor's not on par with we've seen programs, like Auburn win a national title and then in a year fire their head coach. But I mean, Baylor is awful.
All right, let me ask you a question, Casey Smith.
Oh no.
Where do you stand on a quarterback of a team beating a 1-5 team on the road and then running to their student section and flashing his watch and saying, "Look at my watch"?
No comment.
Why? Well, this is a podcast. Well, you got to comment.
Well, people don't want to hear me talk about Colorado. I talk about Colorado too much.
That was a hypothetical.
I'm going to pass it off to Jack. I'm sure Jack has a thought on it.
That was a hypothetical. I didn't mean anything. I mean,
well, wait, hold on. Are we talking about Ole Miss with their brick watches?
I swear to fucking God. Do that again. Do that again.
Are we talking about that Dave is going to do?
Me and Jack will be talking WNBA tomorrow.
Are we talking about the fact that Dave's going to do an NIL deal with Ole Miss and brick watches?
Yeah, that's really going to help Barstool's racist image. All right, here we go. Yeah.
No, I do want to hear what Jack has to say about Shadur, though.
I thought it was fine. You know, it's good to have somebody like that in the game. It's cocky. It's against 1-5 Arizona State, but here's the thing: Shadur Sanders doesn't care. He did lead his team down the field for a last-second field goal to win. It may have been against 1-5 Arizona State, but you know he's Deion Sanders' son. He's gonna be cocky and celebrate your W's. You got to celebrate your W's.
He's also led, and I don't know who's hitting their mic. He's also led to one game-tying drive against Colorado State that was in the last minute, and then to this drive today to win the game. Like, he's led 2 incredible drives for Colorado, so he's got a reason to be cocky and everything. Now, a lot of people will look at that and say, "Oh my God, look at this! That's terrible! That's terrible! That's terrible!" Listen, just lean into it, man. Just lean into it. All the cameras are on you in Colorado anyway. Just go show them your watch. It doesn't bother me. Whatever. I don't care.
Who cares?
I used to have a brick watch, but I hit that with a golf club today.
No, you didn't.
I bet.
You hit your brick watch with a golf club today?
Video's ready to roll.
Oh my God.
Video's ready to roll. All right. What?
Back to the Baylor thing. Oh, sorry, go.
No, go ahead, Katie. Go.
When you said they won the Big 12 2 years ago, I think the timeline is completely ruined. Like, their 2 years ago, 3 years ago is no longer a safety net. I think people with the expectations with the NIL portal, it's a year reset. There's no, like, you really have to be a first year, second year head coach to do the rebuilding year. I think with Dave Aranda, I don't think that qualifies. It's like you have to have immediate success, if not in 2 years, or there's massive questions.
I agree with you, Katie. And it's also, I mean, not that everybody should just be like playing to wait for Texas and OU to leave, but all these other teams that have a gigantic opportunity to step up and say, okay, like the 2 big brothers are heading to the SEC next year. Like, what's going to happen going into the next season? Who's going to be the top dog? I mean, Oklahoma State got a win on Friday night, but still, it's like who is going to take the step up and say, like, all right, like, we're going to be top dogs next year? No one seems to want to do that.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. What else? My last thing I wrote down was every year we do this with Kentucky. I just wanted to circle back to them because every single season, every single year they start 5-0, and every year they get ranked, and every year somebody beats the piss out of them. Just wanted to shout them out. Speaking of shout outs, Jack and Casey, let's shout out the good people of Flex Pro Meals. Oh, Casey's dying again. Excuse me. Never mind. Casey, you go die. Gourmet Flex Pro meals delivered to your doorstep for just $4.99 with code Barstool. R.I.P. Casey Smith.
No, I'm sorry. Again, like I'm trying to make it through with very little voice. Jack has a flex meal right there. Look at that. What is that, Jack? It's it's a barbecue.
Slammin' Jammin' Barbecue, the Indy Chick, and then I also have rosemary beef and orzo. This is one of the many selections that Flex Pro Meals has, and they are helping everybody out that wants to get maybe just some quick food, some quick healthy meals, get their diet right. We love Flex Pro Meals over here.
Ever struggle with keeping off those pesky extra pounds during football season? Help.
Me.
I shouldn't be reading that verbatim. Yes, I have never personally struggled with keeping those pesky pounds off. What, Katie?
not.
What's that face? What's that face you're making, Katie?
I'm just trying to see over the banner. Nothing else.
Introducing Gourmet Flex Pro meals, a game changer in the battle against those unwanted pounds. Imagine this: mouthwatering gourmet meals delivered right to your doorstep tomorrow, all for an unbelievable price of $4.99 when you use code Barstool. You'll probably spend more than that at the grocery store, not to mention restaurants, and it wouldn't taste as good. Losing weight isn't as complicated as it seems. It's about what you eat, and the truth is the challenge isn't about eating healthy food. That part is surprisingly simple. The real challenge is staying prepared, and you can stay prepared with Flex Pro meals.
Love a good healthy meal ready to go, not just during football season, at any time during the year. Like if you just don't have time to cook, they've got it for you right there. I love that Jack has them. I think Jack just lives at Katie and Jack both just live at the Barstool office now. And I'd imagine those fridges filled with Flex Pro help a lot.
Head over to flexpromeals.com. Remember the code Barstool. Again, flexpromeals.com, code Barstool. Don't wait. Take action now. Say goodbye to those extra pounds. All right. Let me do a last check on USC before I launch into this little tangent here. Oregon State's in a war with Cal as well, 35-32. Washington State lost to UCLA today. UCLA, as the Pac-12 starts to kind of thin out a little bit, UCLA defense played very, very well.
You got that right.
Yeah, I got most things right. The one I got wrong, I got very, very loudly wrong. That's my problem. If I could just be right and wrong at the same volume at all times, I'd be okay. But when I'm wrong, I scream my wrongness.
You definitely like. I think when I was rewatching clips today from the Barstool College Football Show, I said something along the lines to you. I was like, "You don't think Oklahoma is very real?" And you were like, "I think they're the fakest team in the country." And it's like you could have just rolled with, "Yeah, like they're not very real." You got to double down on it.
Can I say something? Can I just say something?
Oh no.
I don't know. Jack, Katie, Casey, I don't know if y'all saw this. Anybody know who Gerald McCoy is?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
He hates us.
Gerald McCoy is apparently a very active Twitter user in the Oklahoma universe, and Oklahoma Twitter is just absolutely not a cesspool at all. But Gerald McCoy is active in Oklahoma Twitter, and Gerald McCoy demanded I apologize today for being wrong about Oklahoma. When the fuck did we become such pussies in this country where you got to apologize for a football take? This man played 10 years, 20 years in the NFL, incredible career, a great football player, and he wants an apology? For what? For being wrong? No, that's not how this shit works. I'll say something. It's wrong. I say I was wrong. We move on. We don't apologize. What kind of pussy shit is that?
He came after the podcast as a whole. I think that it was maybe one of the episodes I was on maternity leave, because I remember going back and forth with him, and he was like, I don't know which one of you said it. It was a clip of Jack and Brandon, but he then went on Gabe Eichert's show and was like talking about us too. He hates you, Brandon.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. Softness like that is why y'all hadn't won shit at Oklahoma. But again, y'all were good today.
Well, and also like if we all
apologize for being wrong.
Right. Well, that's what I'm gonna say. If we all have to start apologizing for being just simply wrong about takes, I mean, literally every single person who watches sports is going to apologize nonstop. Don't apologize. Like, yeah, you were wrong. Guess what? Fucking happens. Move on.
Gerald McCoy, I'm sorry. I hurt your little feelings and said your team wasn't going to win. Come on.
Brandon, what you need to do is you need to keep receipts. And when I know we'll talk about this more.
You got to tell me I need to keep receipts?
No, I know. I'm saying when OU loses a game, demand an apology from him.
I'm like a Walgreens coupon wife. Just a book of fucking receipts. I got receipts for days.
Oh, I know. Nobody better. Well, it's like Deion Sanders and then you. Receipts.
All right. Are y'all ready? Casey Smith, who won the weekend?
Well, Brandon, not to double down on your incorrect take, but it's the Oklahoma Sooners. And I'm going to take it to an even smaller level. Why are you laughing right now?
Jack just got somebody else.
Which Jack, what are you doing? I needed somebody.
Lane Smith. Lane Smith said I look like a lesbian, so I banned him.
Oh God, it feels good, doesn't it?
It felt
You're
great.
actually banning people in the chat right now.
Right, this motherfucker's taking time out of his life to watch us at midnight, and you're banning him.
I banned him. He's gone. He left.
All right.
I mean, I love it. I love that it's just like Jack's like, I'm not taking any shit tonight. Okay.
All right. Casey Smith, who won the weekend?
It's the Oklahoma Sooners, and I know that we're all probably going to have some sort of take like that, so I'm going to say it's Brent Venables. A lot of people, including people on this podcast, I know I did last year. I came around a lot more this year because I did think they were a lot better. But a lot of people question if he's the guy. And I'm not going to call out the morons on Twitter. I am going to mention that it's ridiculous, but there were still some OU fans talking about Lincoln Riley today, which is just bananas to me. I do not understand that. But Brent Venables said today, like, I am the guy. Now, I want to see what continues to happen. We know that Texas and OU are probably going to play again in December, and part 2 is going to be awesome. But they not only beat their rival and did it well, they beat a team that a lot of people, including myself, had at number 1 in the country. After Alabama lost to Texas and seeing Quinn Ewers play the way that he did, I was absolutely sure Texas would win this game today. And Brent Venables outcoached Steve Sarkisian. I mean, obviously we'll talk about Sark too. I mean, I talk about Jimbo later, but Sark made some really, really bad decisions today, but Brent Venables didn't. Dylan Gabriel looked incredible. The defense made plays when they needed to. And Brent Venables came out and said, hey, like last year was not acceptable. We lost this game 49-0. This was a gigantic win for them. And he said, like, I am going to turn this program around. And if you're an OU fan right now, you should be very happy with what you saw from Brent Venables today. OU absolutely won the weekend. There's no doubt.
If you're wondering why I'm grinning watching Jack grin as he reads the chat. I'm like looking, I'm watching his face.
I can't.
Get out of the chat. Get out of the chat, Jack. All right. Jack, who won the weekend?
Jalen Milroe won the weekend. He had a phenomenal game. He showed up. He made some just spectacular passes. And I would also say, honorable mention, Jermaine Burton, definitely his best game in an Alabama uniform in a pretty big game. I mean, this was pretty much to win the SEC West. So,
and I'll also
give a shout out to I'll give a shout out to the chat. The chat's had a pretty good night.
All right, Katie Stats, who won the weekend?
I think I agree with Oklahoma, but to be more specific, I'm going to do Dylan Gabriel. To see someone transfer and be successful, I feel like people weren't really looking at him. Excuse me, I have the Casey. I think like generally, whatever you have, I have now. But he's in the Heisman race. I feel like he has to be at least in the conversation. Like he has to continue doing this, but he waved his flag, planted, and said, "I'm here. You have to pay attention to me." In Oklahoma, we're legit.
Yeah, I mean, his numbers going into this weekend, we talked about it on the last podcast. I mean, they were phenomenal. I think, he was like the third, like most efficient passer in the country, I believe. I mean, he looked really, really good. And it's not against a prototypical Big 12 defense. I mean, I'm not going to walk back that Texas defense has not looked really good this year. They had their moments today where they did not, but that's still a much improved Texas defense, and he looked great. I agree with you, Katie. He's got to be in some conversations for sure.
Brandon Walker, who won the week?
Yeah, so you both took Oklahoma, so I think we've covered them sufficiently. I got to go with the Louisville Cardinals. 5-0, doubted, didn't look real. Barely beat NC State, barely beat Indiana, barely beat Georgia Tech, and then came home. Huge spotlight. Notre Dame coming in, national television. Jeff Brom in his first year gets all the transfers. And like we saw with Sonny Dykes last year, who went from 5-7, brought a bunch of transfers in, went to a national title game. All of a sudden, Louisville, by beating Notre Dame on this national stage, they're going to shoot up into the top 15. They've got all the momentum in the world. The schedule's very manageable. They went from dead in the water under that idiot coach last year who just wanted to get to the airport, and now they're right there in the mix. They just beat a huge program, national TV. Football is alive in Louisville. The crowd was awesome. I think Louisville won this weekend.
It's a good answer.
But although Arizona might steal it. They might steal it. We'll see. put a pin in that. All right.
Brandon.
Jack,
OU won the weekend, Brandon.
Okay. Well, they did, but you said them. She said
I
them.
know. I'm just saying.
I'll tell you what, though. I mean, Arizona beating US. Well, actually, that would be more USC would lose the weekend. But Jack, who lost the weekend?
Mario Cristobal. Bad.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Yep.
Wasn't
It
good.
was so simple, so easy. This is a bad loss. And it's one that I get you could point out if you were an inexperienced coach, but you're not. And this is, if that was an SEC school or a Big Ten school with a big fan base,
Yeah.
people would be emotionally breaking down. But Miami, I'm not saying they don't have a fan base, but it's kind of just like they really don't.
They just, as soon as the game ended, they put on their Dolphins jerseys and getting ready for Tua tomorrow. Katie stats. Who lost the weekend?
There's a lot. I think there's more losers than winners, but
Well, that's true in all of life.
very fair. I'm gonna have to go Jimbo Fisher and the A&Ms for having him and just his play calling.
I'm not even gonna. I mean, Katie and I are dying. I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, we're just absolutely dying here. Struggle City.
Casey, who lost the weekend?
I'm gonna save my.
All right.
I'm sorry. I'm trying so hard. I'm gonna save my cosign of what Katie said for the shit list. My voice is gonna sound like a boy going through puberty right now. I'm gonna say Steve Sarkisian. Obviously, what Jack said about Mario Cristobal, like that's the type of like what Mario Cristobal did to finish that game. Like he's gonna lose sleep over one single thing. Now, obviously, they probably shouldn't have even been there at the end of the game in the first place, but Steve Sarkisian is going to look at what he did at the end, like playing prevent defense at the end of that game. Just a bizarre way to coach. And I mean, the biggest game you've had in your tenure at Texas, and he just absolutely blew it. I do not understand how, as a head coach of a top 5 team in the country, you make those decisions and you play scared against a team that you beat by 49 points last year. He absolutely lost. He is going to be thinking about that. You want to talk about Texas boosters? They are fucking furious tonight. So Steve Sarkisian lost the weekend for me. Brandon, who lost the weekend?
The Notre Dame Fighting Irish. It's over. It's over this year. If you are a major national title contender or if you're a major program, you can survive a loss, but you can't survive 2 losses. As soon as you take that second loss, your season, for all intents and purposes, is over. And that might sound harsh, but you didn't go out and get Sam Hartman so you could go 8-4 and win the Alamo Bowl. You didn't go out and get Sam Hartman so you could feel good about yourself in December when you're 9-3. You went out and got Sam Hartman because you felt like you could win a national championship. And they lose to Ohio State a couple weeks ago in heartbreaking fashion, and then tonight they just get thumped on the road. I mean, they get thumped. They were not really in that game in the second half. They got outclassed. And now they have to look around. We've got Sam Hartman. We have all the pieces we thought we needed. Where is the problem? Is it the coach? Is it this? Is it that? Is it just never going to happen for us? Because it's over for this year. Notre Dame absolutely lost this weekend. All right.
Do you think, how must Sam Hartman feel? Because I feel like he, obviously, like some of it is on him. He left Wake Forest to go take this huge next step in his career, be like the saving grace for Notre Dame. And week 6, they have their second loss. So it's like, yay, Notre Dame.
I think being Sam Hartman and being the Notre Dame quarterback is still probably pretty sweet. So I know he's probably disappointed, but I think you take that risk and that chance 100 times out of 100. You're disappointed, and you probably wonder if you're getting the coaching that you really need to get. But I think, that's a good question.
It's a great question because it goes back to what we were talking about when we talked about this game itself, is that like everybody that's a Notre Dame fan said they were just a quarterback away, and he is the quarterback that they needed, and he's played really, really well, and it's still not good enough. So it's like, okay, well, then if that's not good enough, then what's the bigger problem? And I mean, I'm sure he's frustrated and he's going to be fine, but it is like, okay, Notre Dame fans, you said you're a quarterback away. You have the guy. What's the problem now?
All right. Our last thing we do is the shit list. Casey, your shit list, please.
First of all, I am very, very upset that I don't have a full-fledged voice for this, because if I could scream right now, I would. Katie encouraged me, because she does that very well. She's great with social media, and she encouraged me when I sent her the clip today about A&M, and I said, it's not a hot take. It's not being, it's not wishful thinking. I'm this cocky and I'm this confident that A&M is going to win. And I said, this is going to come back to bite me. And she was like, believe it, say it with your chest. And I said it with my chest. Jimbo Fisher is such an asshole. And not just because he continues to make bad coaching decisions, not just because he's getting paid $95 million, almost $10 million a year to make bad decisions. He sits up on the podium and acts like we are complete and utter buffoons at the end of it. The decisions that he made throughout this game, they just didn't make sense. To punt on 4th and 1 and then try to tell us, oh, well, if it was 4th and inches, we would have gone for it. Again, haha, let's make a joke. 6 inches doesn't matter. Well, folks in the bedroom, it may matter. It does not matter on the football field. You should have fucking gone for that on 4th and 1. Anytime I say 6 inches, I'm going to it's 1 a.m. Okay, Brandon, let me live. Let me cook. Take a timeout only to kick a field goal. And then I understand, they go and they kick the field goal and they go for the onside kick. The way the defense had been playing, I understand the secondary had been getting gashed all over. But to then do that with 2 minutes left, it's just like giving Alabama the field position that they did. He made such horrible game decisions. He mismanaged the hell out of that game. He got outcoached, and getting outcoached by Nick Saban. Okay, fine. That, whatever. Nick Saban's the best college football coach of all time, but he made horrible decisions and then had the balls to stand up in front of God and everybody and try to make excuses, because this man knows this money is guaranteed. He just does not care. And I'm going to have a whole take once I get some sleep and feel better tomorrow about the state of this program. But it's the same thing I said after the Miami loss, and I'm going to double down on this podcast right now. You have everything in place at A&M now that they've gotten all the NIL money, more money than God, the facilities, the players, the number 1 recruiting class. You just don't have a head coach. And this guy doesn't seem to give a shit. He doesn't seem to care. This was the most vulnerable Alabama has been in a very long time. Yes, Jalen Milroe played his ass off. They completely killed A&M secondary. But you can't then get up on the podium and make us look like assholes. You can't do it. And he does it every single week. And it is so frustrating.
All right. Well said. Yeah.
Thank you.
Been there.
I didn't die in the middle of it either, so I made it.
Jack, your shit list.
Just going to reiterate what Casey said about Jimbo Fisher. I was a little bit more mad that he kicked the field goal with when he could have scored a touchdown. Obviously, I had Texas A&M plus 2.5, but Jimbo, throughout the entire game, just did not show up when he needed to. Jimbo Fisher's my shit list.
How? How does this continue to happen? How?
Katie, your shit list, please.
This is going to be very unrelatable, but my shit list is
Drake May for throwing 3 incomplete passes.
no, not even close. Maryland, Mizzou, Arkansas, Texas A&M. My main thing that I do at Barstool is merch for Viceroys, and I'm every week I go and try to predict what are the upsets, who cares, where do we go. I had shirts ready for those 4. Those 4 had great games and were so fucking close, but a loss doesn't do shit for me. I can only launch them if they win. And now my entire weekend is based off of 2 fucking shirts, Oklahoma and Louisville. And that's not going to do enough. So I'm pissed at those schools for having really good games, but they just couldn't get it over. It's like close only counts and horseshoes to hand grenades. Couldn't have just Mizzou, really? You couldn't have.
I will say, Katie, the shirt that you sent, the A&M shirt, would have done very, very well too. Not to rub salt in your wound, but
no, we'll save it for next year or whenever. But
no, if Jimbo's still there, you're never going to be able to sell that shirt because he's never going to be able to beat Nick Saban in a game like this. I know he's done it in the past, but he had what? I can't.
Yeah, because they couldn't pull out a win. I have to now go do some explaining why merch isn't there because it fucking sucks. Okay, that's my shit list. Sorry.
Brandon Walker, what's your shit list?
All right, here we go. My shit list is me. Oklahoma fans, you were right. I was wrong. Here's the thing. I'm just kidding. Fuck that. No, I'll do it again. I'll fucking do it again. In 6 weeks when you play Texas again, I'm going to fucking do it again. Fuck you. Fuck you forever. All right, my shit list. Steve Sarkisian. Brent Venables coached to win the fucking game. Steve Sarkisian coached hoping not to lose the game. The game is 27-27. They got the ball. They get to the 36-yard line. They go run, pass at the line of scrimmage, run, long field goal, give Oklahoma a minute and a half left. They then play the softest defense imaginable. Steve Sarkisian, you went to Texas to win championships, to win big football games. That football game was incredible. The crowd was standing, the hair was standing on my arms. That game was so amazing. And when the time came for Oklahoma to win it, Brent Venables said, fucking give it to me, I'm going to take it. Dylan Gabriel said, fucking give it to me, I'm going to take it. You said, well, let me dip my little toe in the pool and see if the water's too hot, and then maybe I'll win. No, fuck that. Go win the game. Steve Sarkisian, you coached like a pussy at the end of that game, and you lost the game for your team. That's who's on the shit list. That felt good. Where are we? Who am I? If you've ever been a player for a team, and you say that somebody should apologize because they think your team was going to lose, fuck you. You're on the shit list too. Anything
Brandon,
else? Yes.
I do appreciate that you at least pretended to put yourself on the shit list there.
Yeah, I wasn't going to follow through with that shit. I'll be wrong. Listen, I'll be wrong again. I'm right way more than I'm wrong. I just need to control the volume of my wrongness sometimes.
Can I ask a favor of you as somebody who is very close to me, my podcast co-host of all these years? Can I ask just one favor?
Sure.
Please do not hype me up about A&M anymore. Because when you do it,
sorry.
When you do it,
Sorry.
I believe you.
Sorry.
I sit there and I say, you know what, Brandon, he is unbiased. He's not an A&M homer.
Yeah.
He would go against me in a heartbeat if he really believed it, because he wants to be right. He's the heart and soul of this podcast, and he will tell me the truth.
Sorry.
And you have done it so many fucking times.
Yeah.
You have hyped me up about A&M so many fucking times, and I already have that hope coursing through my veins.
Yeah.
It's a disease you can't kick. You're born with it. And then you stick the needle right in my arm and you shoot me up just to let me down.
Yeah.
So don't do it anymore, please.
Well, fuck you. I'm sad. You got to be sad too. I don't care.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. Fuck you too.
Hey, I'm 5-0.
Fuck you too. All right. Y'all good?
Yeah.
Hey, Jack. Fuck you too.
Thank you to everyone that tuned in. Like the stream.
Please like it. Please.
Shout out Ontario.
Wait,
Brown.
hold on. Brandon, is A&M beating Tennessee next week?
Oh, God. Really?
I'll think about that tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. That's unnecessary roughness. Bye-bye.